Okay, if I have your attention, we'll call the August 2020 Rolla, City of Rolla Planning and Zoning Commission to order. You should have received an agenda. We have one change to it. We need to have elections of officers that we haven't met for 2 months, so we put that off. We'll do that at other business in section 8, unless that's okay with everybody. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of May 12th, 2020. You should have received a copy in May, and you should have also received one this week. Any additions, corrections, changes needed? If not, I'll rule those approved as printed and distributed. Report of City Council actions, Tom?
Has been a few months since we met. The last thing that was on the agenda from the last time we met in May was the rezoning to the C1 neighborhood district, from the C1 to the C2 district at 1800 East Highway 72. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that that be approved by City Council, and the City Council did approve that on June 1st.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you. We have no old business. We have one new business item. Usually we do mundane things, or like changing from C1 to C2 or R1 to R2, or approve a subdivision. Every once in a while we get something a little different, and such as vacating the alley over on Houston Road, or the road, or I guess it was a road, or this was a little different. So it's a West Side Marketplace, a request for a minor subdivision to reorganize one platted lot and an unplatted property into two platted lots located at 10-120 County Road, Sally Road.
So the number, yeah.
Tom?
Yeah, so, this one's a little bit different. So this is the area map showing the area in question. The red is the entire area. I did go ahead and add this blue line that shows, basically that's the lot line. The result of this minor subdivision basically there'll be this property here. It's about 3 acres, and then the remainder, which is almost 20 acres. You can kind of make out on there, and with the green, there's two triangles. So basically, what this is to do is to take and add some property from this bigger tract to the smaller tract. It'll make it square, basically. The way this started out, there's the smaller property. It's owned by one of the applicants, Mr. Dunaway. He asked the city to consider selling some properties to him. He wanted to make his property larger or square it up or whatnot. And so this is kind of what was agreed upon between him and the city manager through the city council to agree to sell to him. So this is under contract to be sold to Mr. Dunaway. As I alluded to, the owner of the larger piece of property is actually the City of Rolla. So the City of Rolla is the co-applicant on this. So this minor subdivision basically is to adjust the lot lines. Now what makes this especially different is that these green lines that you see on here and the property that Mr. Dunaway currently owns is actually not inside the city limits. So the resulting lot will be partly inside the city limits and partly outside the city limits. I know that's strange, but this best way we could come up with to make this happen, because these two triangles, they can't be separate lots on their own. One not big enough and don't have enough road frontage, and also don't have access to sewer utilities. Mr. Dunaway is not served by any city utilities. He's served by rural water, rural electric, doesn't have access to sewer. So we went through quite a few different options, but this is the option that was landed on. So the larger property is zone C3, which is Highway Commercial District. So the resulting lot that Mr. Dunaway would own would actually be partly zoned C3 and partly still just zoned in the county. So his property, in this case, it's not going to be quite as weird as it could be, because these triangles, they're basically unbuildable. They're steep sloped, and he doesn't have any plans to build on them or anything like that. He wanted to square up his property lines, and if it was a buildable property, there could be some concern about, well, what happens if you wanted to build across the city line. You know, does zoning apply, does building code apply, and that sort of stuff. Those are some questions that could possibly come up someday, but for now, we're concerned about that. And then this is just a view of the plat itself. As I said, it's basically lot 2 is the one that Mr. Dunaway will own when this is all said and done. Lot 1 is what the city of Rolla will retain. Just to, in summary, this minor subdivision, it changes the lot lines between these two lots. There is 2 properties now. There will be 2 properties when this is done. Lot 2 is partly in the city limits and partly not in the city limits. This appears to be in compliance with all requirements as far as lot size and that stuff, as would be applicable anyway. It's a little complicated because of the lot 2 issues, but it appears to be, as far as we can tell, in compliance with everything that would apply. And then, so we'll come back to that later. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions, Tom? He didn't want an easement on the utility easement across the front of any of it?
Correct.
But there is a water line that goes, there's fire hydrants down Sally Road to the junction of West Side.
Yeah. And currently that's in the right-of-way.
Oh, okay.
And there's 2 water lines. One, as I understand, is the city's, and the other is the rural water, and that's what he's connected to, although it gets more complicated because the rural water buys their water from the city, and so it's kind of a weird deal. But there's not any utilities in the utility easement that was requested. Basically, RMU and Public Works kind of wanted a utility easement to sort of be ready for the future and line up with other easements that are along the frontage of Sally Road. There's a 30-foot utility easement. This being kind of a weird deal in that the easement would only be on the property that's not in the city limits. So I'm not sure that legally we can require him to give it. The code also doesn't give us really the ability to require an easement along the street frontage. We can request it, but I don't think we can. It doesn't say we can require it. And then in addition, since he's just buying, the easement wouldn't be on the pieces of property that he's buying, it'd be on the property that he already owns. So it's kind of a weird thing to turn around and, oh, you're buying property from us, please give us an easement also. So it's just a different situation.
Well, to me, it'd be logical to go into the city and get access to that fire hydrant that's right on the edge of his property and right next to his house. So hopefully the rural fire department and the city department's mutual aid can allow them to hook up to it, but I'm not sure. To me, you gain more by being in the city than not. But
that was thrown out there as an option. It certainly would have made my head hurt less in trying to review this, but the applicant didn't want to do that right now. He's not opposed to it perhaps in the future if things change. In talking with the city manager, he didn't feel it was necessary to force the issue anyway. If city council won't approve it without that happening, then that's what we'll have to do.
Okay. I'm always glad to see the city of Rolla has to go through the steps everybody else has to. We've done that several times, but I'm glad to see they have to dot all the i's, cross the t's too. So, any other questions for Tom?
If you did any other development on this property, and part of that development went on to within the city, does he then have to come before us to look for a plat or a development plan or anything?
Well,
If as long as it stays in the county, I understand.
sure.
If it comes across that line,
Yeah, if it comes across the line, I I would think he'd need to rezone it, because right now it's zoned commercial, so if he came across it, he uses it as his personal residence, so it'd be an accessory structure, so I would think he'd have to rezone it. We would probably bring up again, be probably a good idea to annex it or de-annex. That was the other option, is just de-annex the two triangles, so it's one way or the other. And then also, I think, like I say, if it's unlikely to happen because it's steep slopes, so it's these little triangles, so it's unlikely to happen. But if it did happen, the other question is, like I say, does building code apply? Does all that? I tend to think that it probably would, but.
Any other questions? So we're being asked to approve a minor subdivision.
Just your alternatives are to find that the plat meets the requirements, and so recommend the city council approve the request. Find that it does not meet the minimum code requirements, state those reasons, and recommend that the city council not approve the minor subdivision. Could find that it could meet the requirements with some conditions, so recommend approval with those conditions, or if you need more time to make a decision, table it to a certain date.
Someone want to make a motion? We can sit here a long time.
So moved
Move to,
to approve the minor subdivision, send it to the council with our recommendation.
okay, thank you. Monty Shields, do I have a second?
Second.
Steve Shields. Any questions or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Eberly,
Do I need to recuse myself from this vote since the city is part of the,
I wouldn't think, no.
okay.
I wouldn't think so. Be my ruling, but
All
anybody
right.
else have an objection there? Huh?
To recuse yourself because
Because
He's
of
on
the city
city.
being a,
Only if you had financial gain in it.
no,
Yeah, if you needed to recuse yourself, then we couldn't take it to the city
Actually,
council.
Mr. Dunaway's requesting, we're just a co, I
right,
think.
okay. So I'll say aye then, yes.
okay. Martin,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Bowie,
Yes.
Kreider,
Yes.
Stephen Shields,
Yes.
Monty Shields.
yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. We have no old business. I think I said that before, got offline. We have no reports from chairperson. We have no committees outstanding. Tom, do you have anything else to
Yeah, I had
report?
one thing to add, just to make sure y'all were aware, the next meeting date is actually September 15th. And we do have something already, somebody applied to go to that meeting date. The September 8th is, city council is meeting, so they'll be in this room, so we can't meet on the 8th.
Stealing our meeting date, aren't
Yeah.
they? So I guess we'll allow that to happen. Anything else, Tom?
That's all from me.
Other business, we're required to have an annual election of officers. We usually do it in May after the city council reorganizes and appoints someone to serve. Jody was reelected and she was reappointed, so we're glad to have her back. But we usually vote this in May. We did meet June and July, so state statutes require the P and Z to be in effect. And it also requires us to have a chair and a secretary treasurer. Our city ordinances require that we have a chair, a vice chair, a secretary treasurer. I don't know why, we have no budget, and if we're gonna need money, we'd probably have to see Mr. Flowers about stealing some of his, but for, say we were gonna go for training or something, but, and they also provide our excellent note keeper, Madeline, who, so I don't know why we have a secretary treasurer, but it's required, so, your current officers are myself as chair, Mr. Smith as vice chair, Mr. Anderson as secretary treasurer.
I'll move that we keep it just the way it is.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion before we vote on this motion? I don't mind serving again. I missed voting because
No,
You guys are more conservative than I am, and I'd at least like to vote against you once in a while. And I get the votes that have been.
no, that's why we're leaving you where you are.
Yeah, I figured that. I do get to vote in case it's a tie, but you guys haven't had a tie since I became chairman, and I only remember Paul voting once and all the, but I do have seniority, I think, over, maybe Russ has me on. Any questions or other discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. I guess it carries. Any other comments from the audience? If not, we're adjourned.
Appreciate it. So, Steve,
I know she's put on Facebook that due to COVID, they're going to not do anything.
Yeah, that's one of them, on race car business.
He's been creamed.
that?
He's already been creamed. He's out
The
there.
white construction thing.
Rolla.
Just Jack Ball.